Welcome back to Moonlit Journal. Today is going to be kind of a lighthearted video. It's my 2025 anti-haul, so all of the products that hopefully I will not be purchasing this year. I personally find anti-haul videos, or I think some people call them no-buys, or deinfluencing, but I find this genre of video very helpful personally. It's a good reminder to kind of reflect on what works and what doesn't work for me, and to not just buy into the hype. Because as we all know, there are millions of different products that people and companies are pushing on us every single day, and everything is marked as you need this in your life, or this is life-changing, or run, don't walk. It can be overwhelming basically to have any hobby nowadays, because there is just no end to how much you can consume, honestly. So I think it's really important to reflect and be really intentional and mindful about the things that you've noticed are not practical for your life, and that deep down won't work for you, but that you're always tempted by when you see other people using it. Because ultimately, like I say in so many of my videos, journaling is such a personal practice, and it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Everyone has different tools and items and styles that work for them in their journals. And so, I just wanted to add to that conversation online, I guess, and hopefully be another voice that maybe reminds you to think about what you want to bring into your life this year and what you don't want to bring into your life, more importantly. So with that being said, let's get right into it. The first category of item that I will not be purchasing in 2025 is ring planners. So this includes filofaxes, any sort of ring system, plotters. I know plotters are getting so popular nowadays, and they're beautiful. I mean, they're so tempting. Every time I see someone using a plotter, I just find it so aesthetically pleasing. And I'm always tempted to look into it. But then I have to remind myself, I tried a ring system in 2024, and it really didn't work for me for a couple of reasons. One, it's so impractical for my lifestyle. I don't have a printer at home, and I don't plan to get one because I just think it's going to be a lot of costs that I would add to my life to do that. I would have to then purchase paper and ink runs out so quickly, and I don't want to have to deal with the hassle of that at this point in my life. But also, I live in a pretty small place, so I don't want to make the space, I guess, for a printer. But to use a ring system, you basically have to print out pages constantly, especially for it to make sense for me. Like, the whole allure of ring planners to me is the fact that you can customize what's inside. You can really customize what you're adding to it, what spreads you're using. You can get spreads from different creators. You can add in all kinds of things and make it truly your own and really personalized. But in order to do that, that means I have to consistently be printing out different things. And so for my lifestyle, that's so impractical because I have to basically go to FedEx every time I need to print something. It's also just so time consuming to me to cut every page to the right size and to hole punch. And it just becomes a very cumbersome process for me personally. And I know a lot of people enjoy that process, and that's therapeutic. So, it makes sense for a lot of people's lives. But for my life, I know it doesn't make sense. I've tried it. I tried it for like 3 months, and there was just so much friction that came with it. It was not seamless. And what that ultimately resulted in was me not journaling very much and not reaching for my pages and my planner. And that defeats the whole purpose. So I know rings don't work for me. I also just find it uncomfortable to write in. Maybe it's because I'm left-handed. I don't know. But the rings just are always in the way. And I also don't like the archival process, like the way you need to archive your inserts for ring planners. That's also a hassle to figure out. And then lastly, I just really like the sensation of a bound book. I like being able to open a book and flip through it, and it's just not satisfying to me to flip through rings. So this is I think it's very personal to me, but let me know in the comments if any of you agree with anything I'm saying, because sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just like way too particular, or like, yeah, I just see a lot of people in love with ring planners and it works so well for them, but for some reason I do not gel with it at all. And even though plotter is something that I've never tried before and it looks so beautiful, I need to remember that rings are not practical for my life and it was not satisfying to write in. And so that is reason enough to not test it out and to save my money instead, because plotters are pretty expensive and so are filofaxes actually. So yeah, I will be avoiding ring planners in 2025. The next kind of planner type that I will be avoiding in 2025 is actually traveler's notebooks. And don't get me wrong, this is for a completely different reason. I love traveler's notebooks. I recently started using traveler's notebooks in my life. I started kind of consuming more content about them in the middle of 2024, and then I was heading to Japan for a trip and I knew I wanted to wait till I got there to purchase my first traveler's notebook, and I ended up buying two in Japan. I bought an olive green TN and a Starbucks Reserve special edition traveler's notebook. And they're both gorgeous and I love them so much. And I recently posted a video about the newest addition to my traveler's notebook collection, which was the road trip release, which was really cool because I won that in a giveaway. I wasn't even planning to add any more notebooks to my collection. So at this point, I have 3 traveler's notebooks, and I've only really been using traveler's notebooks for like 2 or 3 months now, so I'm very new to that system. So to me, I feel a little weird about that, if I'm being honest. I feel weird that I'm a new user to traveler's notebooks and that I already have 3 notebooks. And that might not be weird to a lot of people, but to me it feels very indulgent and I don't know how I feel about it. It feels like I have more than I know what to do with at this point. And I'm the kind of person where if I'm trying something for the first time, I will usually just buy one of that item and test it out for a long time to see how I feel about it before I purchase multiples, because I don't want to be wasteful. For one, I don't like hoarding things or accumulating too many things unless they all have a purpose in my life. And so I like to be really mindful about what I bring into my life. And now that I have 3 traveler's notebooks, I know that I don't want to purchase any more for a while. And I just want to focus on using the ones I have right now and making sure that they're being used and that they're being loved. And I also want to give them a chance to patina. And I think if I have too many notebooks, then none of them are going to be heavily used. And so none of them are really going to age or patina. So that's another part of it for me. But yeah, right now, all 3 of my notebooks have a purpose. And let me just show you my notebooks. This is my green one. This is my Camel Starbucks Reserve. And this is my road trip TN. So I have these beautiful notebooks. They're more than I could have asked for, to be honest. And to me, this is a full collection. I would be happy if I never purchased another one again, to be honest. There's only so many notebooks I can use at once, so I want to cool it now. And even if there is an absolutely gorgeous limited edition release this year, I'm really going to try my best to remember what I'm saying here and to refrain from adding more into my life, because this is more than enough for me at this point. And I'd like to take it slow with anything that I collect in life. You know, I want to be able to do that over decades and not get everything at once. So I just want to leave space in my collection for things to build over time. So yeah, no more new traveler's notebook covers this year. And along those lines, I also know I do not want to purchase any limited edition inserts as well, because most of them have blank paper, and that just doesn't work for me. I know that blank inserts are not enjoyable for me to write in, really. I need a grid usually. I need something to act as a guide for my handwriting. And so even if there is a really beautiful limited edition insert, I'm going to avoid purchasing it, because especially the insert, the notebook that I write in, needs to be more functional than beautiful. Because that's where I'm writing. I think the cover, it's okay for it to be purely aesthetics, but the actual book that I'm writing in needs to be functional. And so blank inserts are not functional for me. And I know that. So yeah, it's not just limited edition inserts, but it's really any blank inserts I'm going to avoid purchasing in 2025 and pretty much exclusively use grid notebooks. So that's TN related things. Okay, switching things up a little bit, I recently have really gotten into fountain pens, and I've never been into fountain pens before, but I recently went to Paper Plant Co., which is a stationery store in Los Angeles, and they had some TWSBI Ecos out on display, and I just thought they looked so pretty with the ink exposed, and it's just such a beautiful pen to me. And I've always been curious about them and why people are so obsessed with them, and with fountain pens in general, really. So I asked the person working at the store if I could test out the pen, and I luckily had my journal with me. So I tested it out in my journal on Tomoe River paper, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. It wrote so smoothly. It was such a nice writing experience. It glided on the page. The ink also, I loved the way that the ink shaded on the paper, and that you could see kind of the lighter and darker tones of the ink as it dried. Oh, I just love that quality. All that to say that ever since then, I have now been like hyper focused on fountain pens to just an unhealthy degree, to be honest. I have only been consuming like fountain pen related content on YouTube. I've been looking up ink swatches, and I've just learned a lot about fountain pens. And truthfully, the main reason why I never allowed myself to get into fountain pens is because it's a very expensive hobby to have, to be honest. It's, fountain pens can be extremely expensive. They can run you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars sometimes, depending on the pen. And it's kind of a collector's hobby. Once you get into it, from what I've seen, most people then collect more fountain pens, and they form a large collection of pens because it's so enjoyable. I mean, I can completely understand why that's the case. And not just pens, but inks. The amount of inks that are available are just, inconceivable. There's so many different tones and finishes and consistencies that you can purchase that I just see it being a hobby that can lead to a lot of accumulation of things and maybe overconsumption in some cases. So that has kind of scared me away from the hobby, and it's made me want to avoid getting into it altogether because, again, I want to keep a very minimal collection at home. I have a small space, which is one reason why, but also I don't like having a bunch of things in my life that I'm not actively using, but I can see myself becoming obsessed, right? And wanting to collect all the things, and I can just see it being hard for me to show restraint in this hobby if I were to get into it. So I want to be extremely mindful about getting into the fountain pen hobby and world very slowly and intentionally. So I want to set out some rules for myself. Since I've never used a fountain pen before and I've never bought one before, I don't want to just dive in and have my first fountain pen be like $100 or more. I want to start kind of small with a starter pen with more of a beginner price point. And I want to give it this full year to get accustomed to using a fountain pen. I'd like to start by just buying one pen for now and actually see how often I use it and see if it becomes a part of my journaling practice. Because if it doesn't, then I don't want to have wasted a ton of money on it. So there's so many different kinds of pens that you could buy. There's all of the Sailor Pro Gear, the Sailor Pro Gear Slim, the Mont Blancs, the, TWSBI Diamond 580s, and the Pelicans. And as you can tell, I've done a lot of research on this, but I want to start with something that's maybe at the $50 at most price point and nothing higher than that. So that's the rule that I've set out for myself. And so what I'm anti-hauling in 2025 is basically any expensive fountain pens. And what I consider to be expensive for my finances is anything over $100, and ideally anything over even like $50. Like, I want to stick to a price point that's 50 and under for right now and just see how it goes and build the habit of using fountain pens. Because even though the writing experience was great and I know I'll enjoy it, there's so many other factors that I haven't experienced yet, such as cleaning a fountain pen, refilling ink, the maintenance aspect of it. I need to see how that goes before I invest a ton of money into this. So really, I just want to see how sustainable it is. So yeah, no expensive fountain pens this year. Unless they're gifted to me, that's a different story, but I will not be purchasing expensive fountain pens. And while we're in the world of fountain pens, I will also be anti-hauling fountain pen inks. And to be clear, I mean full-sized ink bottles. I think, again, because I'm so new to this hobby and I don't know which inks are most compatible with which pens and which inks are most compatible with the different kinds of papers that I write on, I think I should start small and only buy samples to start with. So for now, I just want to get ink samples so that I can test out a bunch of different brands and colors and tones and just types of ink in general. Runnier inks, thicker inks, different varying levels of shading. There's so many different aspects that I want to become more familiar with so I can understand what my preference is and what works best for my journaling practice. So I will only be buying either samples or like smaller bottles that can be used up quickly. I don't want to buy full-sized ink bottles because I've heard those take years to run through. And if it's something that doesn't work well with the paper that I use or the pen that I buy, then I will so regret buying a full size. So I think starting with samples is the way to go. Okay, we're nearing the end. There's two more items I want to talk about. And the first one is journal covers. I'm not anti-hauling journal covers as a whole, but specifically colorful or patterned covers. Anything with like a design or a graphic on it, I don't want to buy in 2025 because I've realized that I get tired of patterns and designs way too quickly, and it's so dependent on my mood, whether I like it or not. There are some days where I love patterns and bright colors, and there are other days where I can't stand it and it just bothers me, and it's like too much overstimulation almost. And a good example of this is actually my Hobonichi weeks for this year. I have a love-hate relationship with this cover. I objectively can say that it is a beautiful design. Like, this is so beautiful. It's so well done. I think it's so adorable. It sparks joy to look at, but I'm already kind of tired of it, to be honest. Like, yes, I can appreciate it, but to have to look at it every single day and use it every day, there are some days where I don't like this cover for whatever reason. Like, I have to be in the mood, basically, when it comes to patterns or designs. And I've realized my default mood most of the time is muted neutrals or blacks, or just plain tones. And so even if there is a pattern or like a cover design that I find really beautiful and that makes me happy to look at. I want to avoid purchasing it this year because I just know that my moods fluctuate so much when it comes to those things, or I should say my preferences fluctuate so much. And an example of a cover that I really wanted to buy that falls in this category is the Yumi Kitagishi covers. I thought both the A6 and the A5 covers were so cute, so beautiful, but something stopped me from buying them every single time. And I think I just knew deep down that I would get tired of those covers very quickly and that it would just feel too loud for me and too busy really easily. And like probably in practice, most of the time I wouldn't enjoy using those covers. I would rather use something that I know I will never get tired of, like my black Moterm cover. This one is safe. I always love it. There's never a day where I'm tired of this cover or that I find it too much or that it makes me not want to reach for my book. But there are some days with this week's that this cover makes me not want to reach for it, and that's a problem. So I think for the sake of practicality, I should just stick to plain colors, and that too ideally muted or dark tones. Okay, and there was actually one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that is a journaling tote. I know a lot of creators on YouTube have different journaling totes, and the ones that seem to be the most popular are the Superior Labor Engineer bags, and there's a bunch of different bags by Superior Labor, and I think they're just like canvas material with leather finishes and leather handles and whatnot, and they're beautiful. They're so beautifully made. They just look gorgeous to me, and I've always wanted one, but they're so expensive. And just to be honest, like they really are unaffordable for most people. I would think it's upwards of $300 to get one of those. Not to say that it's not worth that cost. I think the craftsmanship is incredible with all Superior Labor products, and you're paying for the materials and the thought and care and craftsmanship that goes into each of those bags. So I'm not complaining about the price point. It's just that it's not realistic for a lot of people, and it's not for me, especially as someone who doesn't really do cafe journaling. I don't really take my journals out with me anywhere to journal. They're always at home on my desk, and I pretty much journal at home, or I take them with me if I travel. But if I'm traveling somewhere, I'm not going to bring like a journaling tote bag with me. I'm going to probably keep my journal just in my purse. So I am not going to be buying any journaling tote bags this year. Also because I recently received this one for Christmas. My sister so kindly gifted this to me. It's just a bag from Amazon that I found, and I added it to my wish list. And I will link it in this description box because I love this bag. It works so well. It's just a canvas material, and they have so many different color options as well. And you can see here there's two main compartments, but also within those there are even smaller compartments to store different supplies. So you can fit quite a few journals in here. I believe I keep 5 journals in here, and it's really helpful for me to have this on my desk just to keep everything really organized and in a contained place. But I fit a lot in here. So in this back compartment, I keep my weeks and my A6, Techo, and I keep my work planner just for easy access. So all of that fits there. And then I also keep 2 other traveler's notebooks here, and I keep my dust bags in here. There's also this front pocket, and it comes with a crossbody strap as well. So it's just really functional, and this was really affordable in comparison. So I just think this does the job really well for me. And so because I have this beautiful bag, I don't need another one. And so even though it's so tempting to buy into the hype of those Superior Labor bags, I see them everywhere, and they're so aesthetically pleasing, and it's easy to feel like, oh, there's a hole in my collection because I don't have that bag that everyone else has. But honestly, it would serve the same purpose as this bag. And I already have this bag, so that purpose is already met for me. So I don't need multiples of the same type of thing, especially if the alternative is hundreds of dollars more expensive than what I already have. So I will not be buying a Superior Labor engineer bag or tote bag in 2025. I just can't justify the price point at this stage in my life. And I have something that works just as well and that I love, and that was a fraction of the price. So that was something else I wanted to mention. And that brings us to the end of this anti-haul. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I think that was pretty much it. If you have any of the things that I mentioned today, I really hope that this didn't come across as me criticizing you or judging you. That's not at all my intention, nor how I feel. Honestly, I can completely understand why all of these items would be very practical and very valuable to someone else who has a different life and lifestyle than me and different set of preferences than I do. And so please don't feel bad if any of these items are things that you love and cherish in your collection. I'm genuinely so happy if you do have items in your life that bring you joy. And that's what we're all striving for anyway. So in the comments, I would love to hear what items you are avoiding this year and what you think is not worth your money. I'm always so curious to see because I know we all have such different preferences and tastes, and it's just nice every now and then to not talk about the things that we want to consume, but rather the things that are not worth our time, our money, and our space. So please add those in the comments if you have any things that you're anti-hauling for 2025. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. Thanks for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, I hope that you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much your support means to me. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.